Hello, Mindset Recovery friends. This is Roberto. So it is the 28th of May, and I just wanted to make a video about the five biggest mistakes, in my estimation, that kept me from staying clean when I got serious about recovery. So I recently picked up 2 years in recovery. I have not been drunk or high in over 2 years. I'm no longer drinking alcohol, which I used to do almost every day. I was a wake and bake weed smoker for almost 30 years. I wasn't picky about the drugs that I did. My drug of choice was what do you got? So I have finally found freedom from addiction in recovery after over 30 years of trying this over and over. So the first mistake that I made that kept me from getting away from using alcohol and drugs was trying to do it alone. So I realized at a fairly early age, probably around 18, that I was an addict. I didn't go to any kind of groups or anything, but I was using against my will. I saw the freight train coming down the track, and I knew that it wasn't going to end well for me. So I decided that I was going to stop using drugs. And I didn't have any kind of a support system, I didn't have any kind of a program. I just, tried to do it by my own will. Just made up my mind that I wasn't going to drink or get high, and it was a failed strategy. So I would make it short periods of time. Often I would, stop for a short period of time, and somebody would come over and have some drugs. I remember one time I was on my way to school. I was going to community college, and I had a big test, and I decided I wasn't going to get high because I smoked weed every day. And I don't remember how long it had been, but a day or two. And I was driving to school, and there was a guy hitchhiking, and I picked him up and drove him. It was on my way, so I drove him, down the road. And he was so thankful that I was giving him a ride that he had a joint, and he was like, "Hey man, do you want to get high?" And I actually forgot that I wasn't smoking weed. I totally forgot that I was on my way to take an exam, and I smoked weed with him, and then I dropped him off. And as I'm driving down the road, realizing how baked I was, and on my way to school, I was like, "Oh crap, man! I forgot. I quit smoking pot." So that's just how it goes. I didn't have a support system. I didn't have anybody I could call. I didn't even have a plan. I was just like, I'm not going to get high. And so I did versions of that for many years where I would go for a short period of time. I remember I had a New Year's resolution one time when I was in my late 20s that I wasn't going to get drunk for 30 days. And I actually made it to day 30, but I smoked pot every single day. And then on day 30, I got drunk as hell. So, that's not being clean, still smoking weed. I guess it was good that I wasn't drinking, but it wasn't really freedom. It was just substituting one drug for another. So that was a big mistake trying to do it by myself. Uh, when I decided that I was going to get some help, started going to Narcotics Anonymous in my early 20s. I was married, and we had a child, and I saw that using was impacting my life and my family negatively. So I don't know how I found out about Narcotics Anonymous, but I went to a meeting. It's probably about 22. Um, I it was it was a good idea, but I did not really pay much attention to what they were saying. What I found having success in 12-step programs is that I need to be able to identify with the fact that I have a problem, see the similarities with the other people in the room, and learn from what they're saying, learn what they've done that's been successful for them. But instead, in that early time, I looked around the room and I decided that I was not as bad as the people that were in the room because I didn't use like they did. The speaker was talking about something crazy, shooting up drugs in a bathroom in a subway in New York. And I hadn't gotten to that point yet. So I was like, oh, well, these people have a problem. I'm fine. But really, I mean, yeah, okay, maybe that guy was further down the elevator than I was at that time, but I was not able to stop using. So I was addicted. I was using against my will. I was just using something different. So I was alienating myself from the other people in the room by finding differences instead of finding similarities. So I continued to try to do it alone. And so that was, a long time ago in the early 90s, and I didn't stop using until recently. So as you can see, that my mom used to say it's like a rat on a rat ring, but that is some country stuff. So I mean, really like a hamster wheel, just doing the same thing over and over again, and expecting different results. That's what I was doing. So then the next thing that was a mistake for me when I started to get serious and try to go to 12-step meetings. And I knew that I was supposed to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. I knew that I needed a sponsor, somebody that you can reach out to that's got experience staying away from whatever it is you're trying to stay away from. And you can call them when you got stuff going on. They can help you see better perspective. They can give you suggestions on things that they did in their recovery that were successful for them. Um, Other people in the program, they tell you to go to 90 meetings in 90 days. That is so you can build a network. It changes your routine. My routine was getting up and finding ways and means to get more. And when I started to work the program and I went to 90 meetings in 90 days, that got me out of the the routine that I was in doing that. And it got me thinking about where I'm going to go to a meeting, how I'm going to get there, getting used to seeing the people. I got a chance to build a network of people that I could call because it's important to call your sponsor. My sponsor suggested that I talk to him every day, but your sponsor is not available 24/7. That hasn't been my experience. So I had a network of people from the rooms that I related to, that I could talk to, that had more experience than me, that were available when I couldn't get in touch with my sponsor. And, but I early on, and for the first many years, I did not reach out to them because that's the thing. When you're struggling, my experience is that, a craving lasts anywhere from 8 minutes to 20 minutes. I was very impulsive. So as soon as I made up my mind that I was going to get high or drunk or whatever I was going to do, um, I was impulsive and I was doing it before I even realized that, I didn't want to do it or put forth the effort to make it through the craving. So when I started to be successful in this program is when I started to reach out to people when I was struggling and talk to them. And so that 8 to 20 minutes of time when, basically I was white knuckling it and trying to not get high, I had people that I could talk to and give me suggestions. Oftentimes we wouldn't even talk about what was bothering me or the fact that I was trying to use. I might tell them, but we would just get in a conversation and pass the time. And by the time I got off the phone with them, that craving had passed. And so I wasn't white knuckling it anymore. And I just stopped thinking about it. So not reaching out to others was a big one for me. And it was a game changer when I started reaching out to others. People, places, and things. This is a big one in 12-step recovery. It sounds very cliche. It sounds stupid when you first get in here. It did to me. But what I have found is that's 100% true because people, I have to change people, places, and things. So if I'm hanging out with people that I'm getting high with or getting drugs from or whatever I'm doing that's jacked up, I need to stop hanging out with those people. So that's another thing about getting involved in a program and going to meetings. You meet people that have the same mindset that you do. They're trying not to get high. So they have to learn how to live life without drugs and alcohol. And I didn't know how to do that because that was my answer to everything. If something made me upset, if I was having a bad day, if I had to do something that I didn't want to do, oh, it would just be better if I would just smoke weed first or drink first, or, oh, I made it through this day. Now I got to get drunk. So, hanging out with people that are trying to not do that makes it a lot easier. So, places also. So, I used to buy my drugs. I mean, I bought them a lot of places, but towards the end, I was meeting my drug dealer at a bar, and I would go to the bar. And of course, you're in an establishment that's selling alcohol. The owner knew that I was there to get drugs, but I mean, it's just polite to buy some of his alcohol and then go in the bathroom and buy the drugs from the person or whatever. So, places. So obviously, having had some success in this program, I have not been to that establishment or any other similar establishment since I got on this road to recovery and started to see success. So I stay away from those places. I don't go to places where they sell drugs or use drugs. I don't. I just don't do that. And then things. So, I've heard people say, they decide to quit smoking weed or whatever, crack, so they're going to keep their paraphernalia at their house to help them remember. That is a crock, man. So you have to get rid of your paraphernalia. I mean, obviously, if you're, you know, I used to grow weed at one point in my life. That would be a bad plan for me to continue to have weed plants in my house, and then I'm gonna go take care of those weed plants and harvest them and sell them, and fool myself that I'm not going to partake of that. Also, like one of the things that I did was I sold drugs to make money to get my drugs, and so when I stopped getting high, I was like, well, now I can finally make some money because I'm not using. But unfortunately for me, you figure out what your triggers are. One of my triggers was having money. So yeah, I had gotten to the point where I didn't really want to smoke pot anymore, but I sold it. And then, I'd get a few $100 together, and I was going to pay my car payment, or I was going to pay my rent, or I needed work done on my car, whatever it is. But now I've got a few $100. So, it's very tempting for me to take that money and spend it on my drug of choice instead of pay my bills. I had, the best laid plans, but I decided that in order for me to be successful in this program, I had to stop doing that because when I was using, my mindset was, oh, I need to sell drugs to get money so that I can pay my bills. But in the end, I was not using the money to pay my bills. I was using the money for my habit. And so I had to just cut that out of my life. So people, places, and things. So it is cliche, but what I noticed is in 12-step programs, the cliches come from the experience of people who have been there. So they may sound silly, but there's a truth to them. So then let's see. The next thing that I have that was a mistake that I made was listening to my disease, because the disease of addiction, or whatever you want to call it, I was in the habit of doing the same thing over and over again. And I was the king of justification. So if I'm driving by the ABC store and my mind says to me, hey, you know what would be great? Going in the ABC store and getting some alcohol. And I say, well, that has not ever turned out good for me ever in the past. But my brain says, well, then don't get liquor, just get beer. My brain is slick. It'll come up with something. Oh, just don't do your drug of choice. Do this instead. And it tricked me, man. And what I realized was it's because I really wanted to do it. But at the time, I was telling myself I'm trying not to do it. So my brain was coming up with excuses substitution. Well, the problem is that you drink too much and then you go drive your car. So what you need to do is just go buy, X amount of alcohol, and that's all that you use. Well, that's easier said than done, because an addict, like me, once I put drugs in my body, and alcohol is a drug, I cannot regulate that. A normal person who doesn't struggle with addiction can maybe go to the store and buy a six pack and drink one or two. And, then they don't drink again for, months and months, or, whatever. But as an addict, the whole point of drinking for me was to get drunk, catch a buzz. And once my brain is affected by the substance, well, I'm not making good decisions anymore. Now I'm getting in my car to go get more alcohol, or to go to the bar to meet my drug dealer. And so, listening to my disease, I heard a guy say in a meeting one time, the program of Narcotics Anonymous says that there's no cure for the disease of addiction, but it can be arrested. And that's when you stop putting the drugs in your body, then it doesn't, addiction is a progressive disease. So it progresses. So, maybe when I first started drinking beer, maybe one beer or two beers was enough, but it progressed to the point where I was drinking a lot more than that. So if I stop putting it in my body, then my addiction, and see, that's something that's weird, because the addiction actually still progresses, because they say, if you stop for a period of time and stay abstinent and you start again, you don't start where you left off. You start where you would have been had you continued to use, because the addiction is progressive, but the use does not progress once you stop using. So your disease has been arrested, and then you're working on recovery, you're working steps, you're reading program literature, you're learning to do the program. But he said, he had been arrested before, and the entire time that he was incarcerated, he was just waiting to get out. And he compared his disease to that. So he arrested the disease of addiction by stopping using. So he basically locked it up, but it was still there, and he could still hear it. And it was pleading with him, like, well, yeah, I know. The last time we got high, we got a lot of control. We did a bunch of stupid stuff, but I don't want to do that this time. If you just let me out, we'll just do one, or we'll just do whatever it is. It's a lie. My disease is going to trick me by telling me anything that it can to get me to let it out. Because once I put the drug in my body, I am no longer in control. Now the addiction is in control, and it's running the show. And I don't know where it's going to end up. I don't know if I'm just going to drink a six pack and go to sleep, or I'm going to wake up in jail. So the best thing for me to do is not listen to my disease when it tries to tell me something, some tomfoolery. I've learned enough times from letting my disease dictate my behavior that it's not got my best interest in mind. Jails, institutions, and death is what Narcotics Anonymous says is the end of the road. We go on best as we can to the bitter ends, jails, institutions, and death, or we can find a new way to live. And that's what this program and other 12-step programs teach us, is to do things differently, because if nothing changes, nothing changes. If I keep doing the same thing over and over again, I'm going to rationalize that it's going to be different this time, because I'm not going to get out of control like I did last time. But unfortunately, that has always been my experience. Even if I can control it for a short period of time, the end is never good. So I don't listen to my disease anymore. And then the last thing that I want to say that has been a big thing for me, mistake, and that I have seen echoed many, many times for people that had some time clean, abstinent, whatever you want to call it, quit doing drugs, quit drinking, and then they end up going back out, is because meetings are a very important part of this program. And for me, it's because addiction, and it's a compulsive, but it's a feeling disease. So what happens is I pour drugs on top of feelings because I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to be upset. I don't want to be mad. I don't want to feel like whatever it is. I don't want to feel it. And so I learned that if I pour drugs or alcohol on top of that feeling, that for a short period of time, I'd not feel uncomfortable. And so that was the only thing that I knew how to do. So going to meetings is a place where I can get those feelings out. If I'm thinking about getting high or I'm thinking about stabbing someone, I mean, whatever it is, you got some crazy stuff going on. You're upset with your significant other. You got teenagers, they're pissing you off. They're knuckleheads. You want to, not that you would, but I mean, you feel like choking them out. You can hold on to that feeling and you can carry it around with you for a while. And then eventually you'll either act out on it or you'll use something to cover it up, drugs or alcohol. That's been my experience. So if I go to the meeting and I say, yeah, my son has just really been a jerk and he pissed me off because he wouldn't take the trash out or whatever it is, I get that out. So I lessen that feeling by sharing it, and then I'm not carrying it around with me anymore. If I've done something, if I've gone out and gotten high, I'm embarrassed about that because I've been doing good in the program and I don't want people to know that I got high. So I'm going to keep a secret and I'm not going to tell anyone and nobody will know. Well, that's what our disease tells us. But for me, if I keep a secret, then it just festers and festers and festers. And then, whatever happens, you use again. You're like, well, I'm an addict. This is what addicts do. I'm never going to be able to quit. I'm miserable here. I'm trying not to get high. So, not going to meetings is one of the biggest things that I hear from people who go back out that make it back, because a lot of people do not make it back. I don't know how familiar you are with the drugs that are going around now, but it just takes one time. You go out and you decide I'm going to get high this time, and you get a hold of something you don't realize what it is, or your resistance to it is gone down because you haven't gotten high on it in a long time, and you're like, well, this is how much I used to do. I heard a guy the other day that OD'd, and he said that he ordered his drugs online and he had the same bag of dope that he had been using out of for a couple weeks. And so he just did some of it like he had been doing over that period of time, and he OD'd on it. So I mean, it's not like we have a laboratory where we can, inspect and test the drugs and see how pure they are and make sure we do exactly the right amount. It's a guessing game. What's for me? I got a hold of some drugs and I did them. And, if they were good, then, I didn't have to do as much, or maybe I wanted to do more because they were good. But not going to meetings, is a big deal for me because I need to be in a meeting after you've got some time in recovery, and inevitably people feel like, oh, I got this, I got this under control. I know what's going on. And then you get a newcomer come in there that's fresh off the streets, that's miserable, that their life's completely unmanageable. It's a shit show in their lives. And you hear them talking about the same exact spot that you were in when you came into the rooms. And it reminds you what you got to look forward to, because it's not getting any better out there. So those are the top 5 things that were mistakes that I made that kept me using for about 35 years. And so, what I do? I do the opposite. I don't try to do it alone. I have people that I have a network of people that I deal with, that I talk to, that can help me see perspective and can help me see if I can't spot self-deception, but if I start trying to blow sunshine up my sponsor's butt, he is going to set me straight right quick and go, yeah, no, that's not reality. Because it seems like, we can't spot self-deception, but if somebody else starts trying to get us to co-sign their BS, we smell our bullshit alarm goes off and we're like, yeah, no, that doesn't sound right. And if you're honest, because honesty is a big part of this program, and it's somebody that you care about, you'd be like, yeah, I don't think a girl half your age is a good idea, man. Oh, well, and I think she's got a boyfriend, but I don't think it's serious. Okay, yeah, no, this is a horrible plan. You are justifying this because you want to do something that you know is wrong, whatever it is. I'm just saying that's an example of a conversation that one might have with another addict who is in denial. And I was in denial for many, many years, and I am very susceptible to it because that's how I have rolled. Now I reach out to others. I stay away from people, places, and things that lead me back to using. I don't listen to my disease. It still talks to me, but now it can be funny. Oh, yeah, this is a good idea. Why don't you invest in a large quantity of drugs and go sell them and make money? Yeah, no, let's not do that. And then I need to go to a meeting. Everybody has got the meetings they need to go to. They get their sweet spot. Maybe you need to go to a meeting every day. Maybe you need to go to multiple meetings a day. I heard a guy say the other day, he only needs one meeting a week, but he doesn't know which meeting it is. So he has to go to a meeting every day to find out which meeting he needed to go to. And that's funny. But anyway, my name is Roberto, and keep fighting the good fight. If you want to talk to somebody about your addiction or something, I am not a therapist. I am not a doctor, psychiatrist, anything like that. But I do have 35 years of experience with using and 2 years experience in a program that I've been successful in. So you can reach out to me. If you comment on this video, I will honestly probably never see it, but you can send me an email at my personal email address, which is piaster67 at hotmail. So that's P as in Paul, IAS as in Sam, TER67 at hotmail.com. If you put mindset recovery in the subject line and you have questions, there's tons of resources that I can steer you towards, not monetary resources, but literature and meetings and live meetings and things like that. I have a lot of experience with that. So feel free, if you just got questions, reach out to me. But anyway, keep fighting the good fight, and have a great day. And if nobody told you yet today that they love you, I love you. Have a good day.